This is Dr. Barbara Young, your host, and this is a show that features up-close and personal interviews with guests from all walks of life who share their stories about unexplainable blessings, successful events, and extraordinary miracles and encounters that can only be of God's hookup. You will receive hope, enlightenment, encouragement that will feed your spirit and your soul. Now, to my guest today. Well, hello to my viewers out there. This is God's Hookups with Dr. Barbara Young, and I want to say this is the day that the Lord has made, and we are rejoicing and glad in it. So I want to welcome you again and to my guest today, Miss Aniston Blair Reeskins. Am I pronouncing that right? I forgot to ask you. Reikins.
You know what? It's close. It's close. It's Ricksteins, but you and everybody else mispronounces it, so it's fine.
I'm going to get it right. It's Aniston Blair Reeskins. Did I write it?
Right. You got it.
Okay. Well, Miss Reeskins is a certified coach, life coach. She's an entrepreneur, wife, and mother of two beautiful children. She spent over 20 years in the marketing industry helping to build global luxury brands. I'll talk to her later. And she's also the co-founder of Divine Awakening Space, which is a spiritual lifestyle brand. She's also co-founder of the Reeskins, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Reeskins Coaching, where she works alongside with her husband, who is her fellow coach. So I'm going to welcome you today. You've had a very interesting God's Hookups, and you got many of them. But Aniston, tell me, how in the world did you go on a backpacking trip, no money, and leave this country? What? Did you know God? Did you know God before you went there?
You know what? I have certainly been very, very blessed in my lifetime. And, before I tell you that story, I need to start about 10 years prior to that to lay a little groundwork on how I got to that place to begin with. And I grew up in a very Christian household. But it really wasn't until when I went to college that I feel like I started to develop that really true personal relationship with God. And there was a very, I would almost say, magical kind of mystical thing that happened to me that changed everything. And I was 20 years old. I had accepted a position working at a Christian camp for the summer. And I was only supposed to be working there for about 6 weeks. And I got there, and about 3 weeks in, this was in Colorado, about 3 weeks in, I started getting this sense that I was going to be staying the whole summer. I don't know why. I had that knowing, that feeling. And it's like I kept hearing this whisper, like, you're going to need to be staying all summer. And my mom kept calling me and saying, okay, it's almost time for you to come home. You haven't booked a flight. You don't have a ride. I live in Texas. So she's like, how are you going to get home? And I said, I don't know, Mom. I just kind of I don't know why. I just keep having this feeling like I'm meant to stay. So a couple weeks go by, and I'm about a couple days away from leaving. But that feeling and that whisper has not gone away. So I go to the camp director and I say, hey, just by any chance, like, do you need anyone to stay? Do you need someone to stay longer? And he said, no, we're all full. We're good. And I said, okay. And I was like, this is just the weirdest thing. So finally, the day before I'm meant to leave, I find someone who I can hitch a ride with back to Texas. And I'm discouraged. I'm disappointed and kind of confused. But I pack my bags. So the next morning I wake up at about 7 a.m. and the car, my ride's meant to leave in about an hour. And I get a call from the camp director, and he says, listen, he said, the lead chef, his mother passed away last night, and he has to leave immediately. And we are in a crunch. We need someone to stay here to help out in the kitchen. Would you be able to do it? And I was like, my jaw just hit the floor, and I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even believe this is happening, because outside of myself, everyone thought I was crazy. And I was in prayer the whole time about it, but I kept on getting this like assured, like this feeling of no, you are staying. So clearly that's when I put the two pieces together. And you know, Dr. Young, you and I were talking about this prior to us beginning, because I think I always felt like God's will for me was this thing outside of myself that was kind of being imposed upon me, or that what his idea for my life might be very different from my own. And then what I realized in that moment was that the way that he communicates through me, and that urge and the desires that come through me that persist and that just continue, that is God's will. And that is him saying, this is for you. You're being called into this. And I wanted to do it. It wasn't that I didn't want, I wanted to stay. I had the desire to stay. So that's when I realized, okay, so when I knew what that felt like. So I took that, and it changed me forever, because what would happen is the next time I was in that position where I started to feel the whispers and the urges, I knew it was for me, even if it felt scary and it was totally out of left field. So I wanted to share that first, because that sets up the story of how then we got to the story I wanted to share with you today, which is one of my absolute favorite hookups that God has sent my way. And this was about a decade later, okay, about a decade after that experience at camp. I've since then, started to do some really amazing things and travel a lot. But at the time I was living in Austin, I had taken a job that I was really excited about for a while. And it was a 9-to-5 job, and it was within the travel industry and marketing industry, which I really loved. But then all of a sudden I kind of started to feel the stirrings of like, there's something for you, it's something coming. So I knew something was coming. I just didn't know what it was. And I was online one day, and I was looking, and I came across these blog posts of these people who've been traveling in Thailand. It turns out Thailand had always been on my bucket list. I always wanted to go. I dreamt of backpacking and kind of doing that, just taking off for a year and just being, just going and doing something amazing. But I hadn't really made time for it in my life. And all of a sudden I couldn't stop reading about Thailand. And it was like all I wanted to think about. It's all I wanted to dream about was like, what if I could just leave my job, quit, put everything in storage, and then just go and travel and have an adventure. And so that started it. And then a couple days later, after like the fantasy of it, the excitement, then the buts start to bubble to the surface of, okay, but let's look at reality here, Aniston. Number one, probably not the most responsible thing to do. You don't have any money saved. So there's that. You don't really have a way to make a lot more money right now to afford a flight to be able to just take off and do this. And also, what are people going to think? Like, your parents are going to lose their mind. They're going to think you've lost your mind. I had a good job. I'd worked really hard to get. And I thought that this job was going to be a stepping stone towards, I thought I knew the path. Like, I thought I knew the path. And then I start doubting myself and doubting where it's coming from, and thinking, maybe this is just me being bored. This is me just like, not enjoying the 9-to-5. And I just need to dig back in and just be okay with where I'm at. But the desire didn't go away. It just kept persisting and getting stronger and stronger. So I distinctly remember that day, that I remembered that time at the camp. And I remember that feeling, and this feeling felt very, very similar. And I thought, and I prayed about it, and I prayed about it. And I just kept, hearing the verse about, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, and just start taking action. I got you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so scary to me. So what I did was I started to do a lot of research. I decided, I was like, this is going to happen. I have no idea how I'm going to get the money to do this. None. And I needed a considerable amount of money in order to just, even in the very beginning, to buy the flights and to make sure I was taken care of, to move out of my apartment. I mean, there was just going to be a lot of expenses to come, and I had no idea how I was going to afford it. So I started to plan as if I already had it. I I like literally planned the entire trip, where I would go, which places I would go see. I looked up the best flights. I had already marked the flight I would want to take, the dates I would want to leave, everything. Okay. So, and this was like, I would say at least 2-3 months. Okay. So this is 2 or 3 months of me investing time in this pipe dream, other people might say. But I just knew, I was like, something is going to happen. Something is going to happen that's going to allow me to do this. So I had set a date. I had written down a date, and I just said, all right, God, if this is something you want me to do, I need the money by this date. Otherwise, I won't have, this won't work in terms of me getting to Thailand when I need to get there. And a few days prior to that date, I was about a week out, I stumbled across this posting online, and it was for a teaching certification that I could get in Thailand. And I had always thought about, it would be so cool to be able to go and teach and really immerse myself in the culture. But I thought that it was going to be something I had to do back in the States and pay a lot of money for and then go. But I found this amazing program that I could take in Thailand, and then they would place me and pay me and pay for my room and board. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So it was like the little breadcrumb of like the first sign of promise that I had really gotten, I feel like, from God. So, but even with that, I still needed the money to buy my plane flight and to pay for that program. So the morning comes of the day I had written down, the day, not the day before, but literally the day I had written down in my journal and my plan of like, I'm booking a flight today or I'm not going. And I wake up and I'm distraught. Like, I'm literally like, tears are in my eyes. I'm so confused and disappointed. And I feel like, I don't know. I felt like maybe I got this wrong. I got this all wrong. I have this desire. It hasn't gone away. And I don't know why I'm meant to do this or why I have this urge that's so big, but I do. And I guess maybe this isn't for me. So I walk out, I get ready for work. I go and I lock the door. I'm walking out to my car, and something inside of my head, like I hear this little voice that says, check the mailbox. And I'm like, no, that's weird. Because my roommate, she always checked the mail at night. I knew there'd be no mail in there. This is the morning. But I do it anyway. And I go and I open the mailbox, and I see there is like this little envelope all the way in the back. Like, I almost missed it. And then I was like, oh, I see something. And I picked it up, had my name on it. It was addressed to me. And it was from the IRS. And I was like, oh Lord, this is not good. Because it wasn't tax season or anything. And I thought, maybe, great, I'm probably getting audited or something. Like, this is just bad news today. And I open it up and I see it's a check. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? And the check amount is for, I kid you not, probably about $100 more than what I needed, what I had written down, what I had said I needed to book my flight, to go and do this and have this adventure of a lifetime. And I actually didn't even believe it. I thought I looked around and I thought, okay, I'm like, someone's like filming me right now. Like, this is not real. I drove straight to the bank and I walked inside and I handed it to the teller. I was like, is that really a check? She's like, yes, this is a check. And because I honestly, I was just in such disbelief. It wasn't like it was April and it was tax time. That wasn't, you know what I mean? So you would think. So I called my accountant and I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, well, it looks like there was an error on your last return and you grossly overpaid, and they've caught it and they've refunded you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I was just like, that was one of those moments where I was beyond grateful and so humbled and reminded, like, do not lose faith. Because, would I have still gone if that had not happened? I don't know. I don't know if I would have made it happen, but I do know this. If I hadn't have started taking action prior to getting the money, then it never would have happened, because I wouldn't have had those months to prepare. I wouldn't have had all that time. Like, I was poised and ready. And that lesson The lesson was in the waiting for me. The lesson was like God saying, I'm not going to give this to you a day earlier than what you said. I want to make sure that you know that you'll never forget this. And sure enough, I've never forgotten it. And it was one of the biggest blessings in my life. It changed my world. And I also realized that while I wanted to go and have this amazing adventure, and it felt kind of selfish to me, like, who am I to like say, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. I want to go travel the world. Like, but it was for me because it came through me and there was something for me there. And not only did I learn so much, but, I was able to teach in this small little town where I was probably one of the only English speakers there. And I have never been so humbled and been around people that are so giving and so loving. And I was able to impact students, and I was able to start a scholarship for them to go to college. I mean, there was just so many things that came out of it that I realized, like, this is so much bigger than me. You know what I mean? Like, this desire of mine, me not acknowledging it and moving forward is not only hurtful, I think, and this is true for anyone watching it, when you have that desire, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else around you, know that it's not just for you to create and enjoy, but it's for, like, God always has a bigger plan, and you never know what that's going to be, right? And so that was my God's hookup for that story.
That is amazing. And out of that, I remember that our God is a God of preparation,
Mm-hmm.
objectivity. And I wrote it down because purpose, preparation, plan, objectivity, action. Now, the thing is that you planned everything, because I always tell people God is very detailed,
Yes.
very detailed, and you were planning everything in detail.
Yeah.
And so I want you to, I'm glad you shared that with viewers, because sometimes there are things, and I know that there are many viewers out there that you have ideas and you think, oh, maybe that's crazy, or this is in the middle of a pandemic and I'm being asked to go and do this, and I have reservations. Is this really God telling me this? Was this really my selfish will want
Yeah.
this? So
Yeah.
and I really want to thank you for sharing that particular story today, because I think it was so pertinent, particularly in the times that you're saying that we're in at this time. So
Yeah.
I'd like for you, I'm going to put you on solo,
Sure.
and I'd like for you just to speak to the listeners, the viewers out there. I have radio shows, so sometimes I'll say, but to the viewers, from your heart, what you'd like to share today as a final note from Edison.
Sure. I think what I've realized, and I'm grateful that I realized it so early in life, because I feel like that was a major gift for me. I believe that God wants us to live not just an ordinary, like, he wants us to live an extraordinary life. And if you're really, really honest with yourself, when you go back and you think about the moments or the times when you've gotten those, like, this idea and like the chill bumps, and you feel energized by it and it's so exciting, and then this is that moment that happens before your logical mind can start talking you out of it. I believe that those are the moments where God is saying, here, this could be extraordinary for you. Here, this could be extraordinary for you. But without action and without faith, I don't believe it doesn't happen. You don't believe it when you don't believe it, or you don't see it when you believe it it when you see it. So sorry, I totally messed that up. But when you can believe before you see, and you start to take action, and we are, born of a God who loves action, because he creates. That's what he does. And I think we are made in his image. We're made in his likeness. We are meant to create, and to create the things that are going to bring us joy. And the things that are going to light us up and bring us joy are his will. And I think that's, if I could leave you with anything, it's to start to trust that how you feel and those inner urges and yearnings, and those are the things that persist. They don't go away. In my experience, the things that are really for me are the things that continue to come up, and I might deny it, and I might try to press it down, and I might try to say it's not possible, but eventually it becomes painful. Eventually it starts to, I think our resistance to what God wills for us in terms of living this extraordinary life beyond our even wildest dreams, I think our resistance to that is major cause of depression, the major cause of anxiety, the cause of a lot of illness and dis-ease. I think that that our spirit is just dying to experience that which God has created for us. So I would just say, go for it and act. Don't wait for proof. You've got to first act, and he will show up.
I can't thank you enough, Aniston, for being on the show today. This has been marvelous. Truly it has. And so I just want to thank all of my viewers out there. If you'd like to be on the show, you can absolutely receive all of my live upcoming shows, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at drbarbara.radio@gmail.com. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at drbee@godshookups.com. And I want you to be able to share this show with your friends. So share. This has been a great show today. We have lots of shows that you can go and you can access on my YouTube channel. And I just want you to really, really know that I love you, God loves you, and this show is for you. It is to bring encouragement and hope and light. God is alive and well, and he loves you. And believe me, these stories, these incredible stories of God's hookups are not just sacrosanct to the people who are there, but many of you have your God hookup story. Know that God loves you, and I love you. And we'll be back next week with another great show. We'll have 3 shows next week. Remember, 11:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 2:30 p.m. And again, if you want to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at Dr. Barbara. No, Dr. B at godshookups.com. I got it right. And again, share this show with your friends. Aniston, again, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. God bless you, and take care of those precious children.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Bye, everyone.
So we're going to say goodbye to Aniston. Goodbye, darling. Bye. And I'm going to say goodbye to all of you guys out there, the listeners. Have a great weekend. And remember,